Hello everyone. Welcome to our pre-recorded na coaching session with me, Learning Agri with Al. And for today, we will be tackling naman yung mga frequently missed questions dun sa agricultural extension and education na exam natin, mock exam number 1. Okay? So first off, let's talk about extension methods. Kasi napansin ko na medyo marami-rami yung mga frequently missed questions dito. Now, bago natin pag-usapan yung iba't ibang mga methods of extension, balikan natin yung lesson natin sa extension, which is ano nga ba itong purpose nito? Why is agricultural extension and education important? Now, extension is important. And while extension is important kasi gusto natin mababago yung buhay ni farmer. Correct? And para baguhin yung buhay ni farmer, there are three things. There are three components of human behavior na binabago natin sa kanya. Ano yung tatlong components na yon? That would be your KSA or knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Okay? Now, when we talk about knowledge, ano po yan? Knowledge refers to what a person knows, kung ano yung alam niya, ano yung naaalala niya, at kung ano yung naiintindihan niya. You can link the word knowledge to the word cognitive. So kapag tinanong kayo sa exam about the cognitive domain of human behavior, automatic dapat knowledge na yan. Alright? So, sipin nyo, knowledge, cognitive, you can also link knowledge to the head. Okay? So, knowledge, cognitive domain yan is the head. Ang skill naman, again, is a component of human behavior that we want to change or improve. Yan naman yung physically kayang i-perform ng ating recipient. So kung ang knowledge is cognitive, ang skills, yan yung tinatawag naman natin na psychomotor domain. Okay, psychomotor domain. Okay? Kung ang knowledge ay head, ang skills ay, it represents the hand. So yan yung skills domain ng human behavior that we want to enhance or improve sa ating mga extension recipient. And finally, we have attitudes. Ano naman po ang attitudes? Yan yung component ng human behavior na it encompasses or refers now doon sa feelings ng tao, yung beliefs niya, yung values, yung preferences, etc. So kung ang knowledge is cognitive at ang skill is psychomotor, yung attitude mo naman is the affective domain of human behavior. Kung ang knowledge ay head, skills ay hand, ang attitude ay, yan naman po yung puso, yung heart ng human behavior. So overall, yan yung gusto nating baguhin, kaya natin pinapractice ang extension, okay? Or education, let's say, extension and education. We are practicing those in order to create a positive change dito sa tatlong components ng human behavior. Now, let's move on. Let's talk about the different methods of extension. So, methods ng extension, nahahati lang po yan sa tatlo. We have individual methods, group methods, at mass method. Okay? Tatlo lang yan. So, yun yung malalaking subgroup ng different types of extension methods. Individual, group, at saka mass. So, hindi ko na i-discuss pa isa-isa yung mga different methods beneath each big group na method. Like for example, hindi na natin i-discuss ang farm home visit, office call, telephone call, personal letter, etc. Kasi na-discuss na rin yan doon sa ating Google Classroom. Now, if you want to dive deeper on this, meron po tayong lesson on the different extension methods sa Google Classroom where we strive na i-explain specifically yung mga different extension methods. So, pag pag-uusapan lang natin is ano-ano ba tong mga big types or ano ba tong individual group at saka mass method na big categories ng extension method. And ano yung advantages and limitations ng bawat isa. Okay? Now, when we say individual methods, ito yung extension method kung saan directly nakiki-interact si extension worker sa isang farmer or doon sa family ng farmer na yun. So may direct interaction. Ang kagandahan sa individual method is yung advice, personalized dun sa farmer or sa family niya. Pwedeng pag-usapan kapag may mga sensitive issues. Very immediate ang feedback galing kay farmer kasi nga direct lang yung usapan nyo. And very strong relationship can be developed. However, the problem with individual methods is that una, medyo expensive siya, lalo na kapag per farmer yung pinag-uusapan kasi ilang farmer yung kailangan mong bisitahin, di ba? Now, aside from it is expensive, it is time-consuming. Medyo matagal yan kapag iisa-isahin mo bawat pamilya. And minsan, limitado lang yan doon sa number of people that can be served. Kasi example, kapag meron kang 1,000 na farmers as an extension worker, may hirapan kang i-reach out yung 1,000 farmers na yun, lalo na kapag may mga farmers na medyo malayo na yung accessibility nila from you. So examples ng individual methods would be farm and home visits, office calls, telephone calls, personal letters, and individual consultation. So yan po ang individual method. Group method naman po involves several farmers learning together. So kanina, individual method, one farmer or yung family lang niya. Sa group method naman po, marami ng farmers. Okay? So there are many farmers that are learning together. So the keyword there is that they are many and that they are learning together. Nakasama sila. So example ng group methods natin would be group meeting, method demonstration, if you want to teach the farmers, is the step-by-step process. Results demonstration, kung gusto naman natin ipakita yung resulta ng isang effective na technology. Farmer field school, field day, farm tour, workshop, seminar, and a training course. Ang kagandahan sa group method is that unang-una, pwedeng magkaroon ng shared experience or exchange of shared experience between farmers. Kasi nga, many of them are learning together. Isa pa dyan, meron tayong tinatawag na peer learning. Pwede yung mangyari. Kasi minsan, di ba, may mga farmer na parang hindi natututo kapag ikaw ang nagsasabi. Pero kapag yung kaibigan nila ang nagsabi, sahas lang sila sumusunod or natututo. Compared to individual methods, ang group methods, mas efficient siya kasi mas marami kang farmers or mas marami kang tao na nare-reach through group methods. And at the same time, kapag magkakasama yung mga farmer na yan, pwede mong ma-encourage ang group action. Ang disadvantages ng group method is the fact na una, possible na doon sa group may mag-dominate na individual, may mag-dominate doon sa usapan, doon sa interaction. Pangalawa, ang group method, medyo magastos rin siya. So, it's quite expensive to implement a group method na extension. Next, we have mass method naman. So kung ang individual method is one person only or the family or one family, group method is farmers or several people learning together. Ang mass method naman po is an extension method kung saan ang pinaka-purpose niya is to reach a large and geographically dispersed audience as many as possible. So ang pinaka-purpose nito is to reach as many people as possible. These people are not learning together, but through mass method, you are just merely reaching them. Okay? So, hindi sila magkakasama. Hindi sila, they are not learning together. Hindi sila magkakasalamuha. Pero ang pinaka-purpose ng mass method ay para ma-reach natin the biggest or the largest audience that we can reach. Right? So, ano-ano yung mga ways natin, yung mga methods natin under mass methods? Siyempre, yung paggamit ng radio, television, newspapers, bulletins, leaflets, posters, social media, ngayon usong-uso na yan, websites, and text message advisories. So, yan naman po. Again, ang pinaka-purpose ng mass method is to reach as many people as possible. Ang kagandahan ng mass method, advantage niya, is that mabilis mong ma-reach out yung malaking number of people, right? So you can reach out to a large number of population quickly, okay? Information can be delivered quickly, mabilisan yung information. Medyo mababa ang cost per person, no? Kasi hindi mo na kailangan i-tailor fit pa yung mensahe mo sa kanila. Pwede kang mag-post lang sa GC, for example. So cost per person reach may be relatively low. And very useful ang mass method kapag may mga announcement and urgent warnings si extension worker dun sa kanyang mga recipients. Ang problem or ang limitation ng mass method is that ang mga mass method messages, hindi sila ganun ka-personalize. Pangalawa, possible na walang feedback or maybe delay. Ma-delay yung feedback. And at the same time, walang garantiya na kapag gumamit ka ng mass method ay naiintindihan ni farmer or naiintindihan ng recipient yung message na gustong ipahayag ng extension worker. So yan naman ang limitation ng mass method. So kapag ikaw sa extension worker at namimili ka ngayon kung ano yung extension method na i-implement mo in order to provide information to change yung KSA ng recipients, ano-ano yung mga factors that affects yung choice mo of extension method? So ito po yung iba't ibang mga factors that could affect yung pagpili natin ng different types of extension method. So una, we have learning objective. So ano ba kasi yung objective? Ano yung goal ng extension? Yan ba ay to develop knowledge? So, ibig sabihin, yung mind, ano? Yung head ang gusto nating i-develop. So, siguro mas applicable ang lecture, right? Paano naman kapag skills yung gusto nating i-develop? Siguro pag skills, baka mas maganda yung method demonstration. Pag attitude naman, siguro mas maganda na group discussion, etc. Yeah. Pangalawa, kailangan din nating i-consider yung nature of the subject matter. Kapag simple lang yung information na i-communicate natin, baka pwedeng sa radyo lang yan. Pero kapag complicated na, for instance, baka kailangan na yan ng repeated training, katulad ng method demo or results demonstration. Pangatlo, we also need to consider the characteristics of the clientele. So, kailangan nating tignan yung kanilang educational level, for example, literacy, experience, yung age, ano ba yung existing knowledge, skills, and attitudes nila. So, very important din po yan. Next, we also need to see yung number and location of participants. Kasi kapag isang farmer lang yan, sa isang malayong barangay, baka mas effective yan. Mas effective na individual method yan. Individual consultation. Pero kapag yung mga farmers mo is consolidated sa isang place, baka mas magandang group meeting, right? Or group method yan. Kapag naman sobrang dispersed ng mga farmer at magbibigay ka lang naman ng announcement, baka pwedeng mass method na yan, like radio, television, or internet. Available time is also another one that affects the choice of extension method. So like for example, gaano ba ka-urgent yung warning? Like kunwari merong urgent na pest outbreak. So dapat mabilisan yung information dyan. It would it would push the extension worker to use radio, text messages, or social media. Available resources and facilities is another one. Like for example, kailangan mong i-consider as an extension worker yung budget, transportation, training, electricity, projectors, etc. And finally, yung competence mo as an extension worker. So, kino-consider mo rin yung knowledge, skills, and abilities mo as an extension worker. At the same time, kino-consider mo rin yung communication skills mo as an extension worker. So these are the things that as an extension worker, you need to consider before na mamili ka ng pinaka-effective sa'yo na extension. And pinaka-effective na extension method for your client base. So speaking of extension method, in relation to that, let's also talk about teaching method. So, teaching method, ano ba yan? Sabi dito, a teaching method is a systematic plan or procedure that is used in presenting instructional materials and learning activities. So, sabi, ang teaching method daw is a systematic plan or procedure. Ibig sabihin, mayroong step-by-step process. It's systematic, no? Very structured yung process. And ang purpose nito ay para mag-present ng instructional materials and learning activities. Ang purpose nito ay para magturo. So when you talk about the teaching method, okay? So very important ito kasi nakita ko maraming rin na-confuse during the mock exam, no? When you talk about the teaching method, iba po siya doon sa konsepto natin ng teaching aid. Alright? Kasi ang teaching method, yan yung mismong broader term, the systematic plan of and procedure of teaching. So ano ba yung plano? Ano ba yung system? Paano i-deliver yung learning activities? Yun yung teaching method. Ang teaching aid is more of ano yung gagamitin natin in order to deliver the learning objectives. So for example, ang teaching method would be lecture. So lecture ang teaching method. Ang teaching aid mo dyan would be a slide presentation. So gagamit ka ng slide presentation in order to deliver the lecture. Okay? So I hope this clears things up. At the same time, let's talk about specifically about field day. Alright. So ano ba ang field day? So ang field day is under what? Mass, individual, or group method. So ang field day po is a group method. Okay? So field day yan. Group method yan. Now a field day is an extension activity that is usually conducted in a farm, experimental station, or pwede rin sa isang demonstration area, or sa isang government center. So that's a field day, right? So pwedeng mangyari yan sa farm, sa isang experimental station, sa isang demonstration area, or sa isang government center. Now, ang pinaka-purpose ng field day sa mga farmers natin, if we invite them to attend a field day, ang pinaka-purpose niyan is to allow them to observe. Okay? So, wala silang ibang gagawin kundi mag-observe. Kaya naman ang field day, pwede rin yung mangyari sa classroom. Okay? Pwede rin yung mangyari sa classroom. So long as they are observing a specific phenomenon. Okay? So for example, sa classroom, pwede mo namang ipakita doon kung ano yung nangyayari na result ng isang technology sa isang farm. Okay? Pero, mas maganda na ang field day, nangyayari siya doon sa mismong site kung saan pwedeng ma-observe ni farmer yung mga farming practices or yung mga different treatments or experiments na gusto natin nilang makita. Mas maganda. Right? So, sa field day, again, ang purpose ng field day is for farmers to observe what is happening. We allow them to see ano ba yung nangyayari. Instead of telling the farmers na maganda, for example, itong variety A, ipapakita natin sa kanila through field day na maganda yung kinalabasan ng variety A. Okay? Now, aside from field day, meron din tayong another method na malamang nakita nyo na rin kanina that is called Farmer Field School. So ano naman po ang Farmer Field School? Ang Farmer Field School is a quote-unquote school for farmers that is experiential and participatory in its approach. Okay? So, during this time, ang gagawin natin ay i-invite natin si farmer sa isang farmer field school para maka-interact niya yung iba't ibang mga farmers, para makita niya kung ano yung nangyayari sa farm, and para mai-apply niya agad-agad yung knowledge niya doon sa farm or doon sa site kung saan siya naimbitahan na umattend. So usually, ang Farmer Field School, inumpisahan yan sa ang pinakaunang topic na na-discuss sa pinakaunang Farmer Field School is actually integrated pest management. Right? So kung saan si farmer ay inimbitahan para makita kung ano yung mga nangyayaring para maituro sa kanila kung paano gawin ang integrated pest management. So sa Farmer Field School, yung field mismo, yung farm mismo, yan yung nagiging classroom, yan yung nagiging laboratory, yan yung nagiging textbook ni farmer. Kaya nga tinatawag rin po na school without walls ang konsepto ng Farmer Field School. Kasi instead na ikukulong mo si farmer sa classroom at kung saan tinuturuan mo siya ng iba't ibang mga technology or concepts sa agriculture, hindi. You expose them to the field itself para agaran. Makikita na nila yung problem. So medyo similar yung Farmer Field School sa Field Day. Siguro ang pinagkaiba lang is that sa field, siguro yung broader term would be yung Farmer Field School. Tapos, kapag bibisita sila sa field, tawag mo naman na doon ay Field Day. Okay? Now, in relation to that, meron din po tayong tinatawag na area approach sa pag-i-implement ng extension method, okay, or extension activities. Now, area approach is just one of the many approaches in organizing extension activities. Pero ano bang ibig sabihin kapag yung extension activity mo uses an area approach? So simply speaking, when you say area approach, lahat ng mga extension activities is in accordance to the needs and conditions of a particular geographical area. Right? So, ibig sabihin, kung yung area na yon is a rice-growing community, kung yung area na yon is a rice-growing community, so pupunta ka doon to introduce technologies na may kinalaman sa rice. So, for example, pwede kang mag-introduce ng one variety and yun yung ituturo mo sa mga farmer. Pwede kang mag-introduce ng planting schedule. Right? Pwede mo silang tulungan sa kanilang irrigation activities. Pwede kayong magturo ng pest management on rice. So basically, when you say area approach, dapat yung lahat ng extension activities na ipopromote mo doon sa lugar na yon ay nakalink doon sa ay nakalink in order to support yung day-to-day na buhay ng mga tao within that area. Right? So, yon yung tinatawag natin na may area approach. Basically, finifit natin lahat ng extension activities doon sa mismong strength ng area or yung day-to-day activities na bagay doon sa area na yun. So, that's area approach. Okay? Kasi meron ka rin meron ka rin tinatawag na commodity approach. Sa commodity approach naman, nakafocus ka lang sa isang commodity or a few commodities na gusto mong ipatanim doon sa farmer natin. Whereas sa area approach, tutulungan natin yung area nila na mag-boom base doon sa kalakasan, doon sa strength na condition ng particular geographical area nila. Okay? So, I hope that is clear. Again, meron tayong discussion, I believe, on the different extension approaches na pwede nyong balikan sa ating Google Classroom if we want to dive deeper on the several extension approaches of the several approaches in agricultural extension. Now, let us move on. Kasi natapos na tayo sa mga different methods, approaches. Actually, puro methods naman yung mga pinag-usapan natin. Dadako naman tayo sa isang pinaka-importanteng concept sa agricultural extension, which is the communication process. Kasi in order for us to change yung knowledge, skills, abilities ni farmer, kailangan na nakakapag-communicate tayo sa kanila ng information. And in order to do so, communication is very important. So, balikan natin yung lesson natin. Ano-ano ba yung iba't ibang mga elemento sa communication process? So, itong mga nandito sa baba na to ay hindi yung communication process mismo ha. Ang tinitignan lang natin dyan is yung mga elements. Okay? So, the communication process is made up of the following elements. We have source, message, channel, receiver, effect, and feedback. So, ano-ano ba tong mga to? Sa isahin natin. When we talk about the source, is yan yung pinanggalingan ng message. So, saan ba nanggaling na tao? Saan nanggaling na grupo or institution yung mensahe? So, sa extension, for example, pwedeng ang source mo ay isang scientist, pwedeng isang extension worker, pwedeng isang government agency, etc. So basically, the source is the one who is expected to answer something or who is expected to spread a message. So that's the source. Next, we have message. Ano naman ang message? Message is the information, the idea, the recommendation that is being communicated. So yan na yung sinasabi ni source. Yan na yung kino-communicate ni source, yan yung message. So, ang isang magandang message, dapat accurate yan, relevant, clear, simple, timely, and practical, at appropriate yan dapat sa audience. Now, in order to deliver the message, syempre, kailangan natin ng channel. Alright? So, the channel naman, yan yung means through which the message travels from the source to the receiver. So, paano ba na i-deliver yung message from the source going to the receiver? Mamaya pag-uusapan natin si receiver. But basically, ano-ano yung examples ng channel? Pwedeng face-to-face conversation. Pwedeng galing sa radio, manggagaling sa radio yung message. Pwedeng sa television, pwedeng through printed bulletins, pwedeng sa mobile phone. So basically, the channel is asking the question, paano yung rota ng message? Ano yung rota ng message? So from the source, paano siya dadaan dun sa receiver? Through which channel? Ano yung rota? Ano yung route ng mensahe? Okay? Next, we have the receiver. So kung ang source mo, sa kanya nang gagaling yung mensahe, yung receiver naman, para sa kanya yung mensahe. So the one receiving the message, that is the receiver. And by the way, yung source natin, siya yung nag-e-encode ng mensahe. So the source encodes the message. And ang ginagawa naman ni receiver, siya yung nagde-decode ng message. Okay? So we have the sender encodes the message, the receiver decodes the message. And of course, kapag na-receive na ni receiver yung mensahe, syempre gusto natin na magkaroon yan ng effect. Right? And ano yung effect na gusto nating mangyari? Balikan natin yung KSA. Pwede ngang effect ay nag-increase yung knowledge ni farmer. Pwede ngang effect ay nakakuha siya ng panibagong skill. Pwede ngang effect ay nabago yung kanyang attitude, etc. So kasama rin na elemento ng communication process yung effect. Now, kapag naka-receive si receiver ng mensahe, minsan si receiver ay nagiging sender rin. And kapag siya ay naglabas ng mensahe, kapag si receiver ay naglabas ng mensahe, ano po ang tawag doon? Ang tawag naman doon ay feedback. Right? So kapag si receiver ay nag-respond kay source, we call that your feedback. And feedback is also a very important part of the element. I mean, it's a very important element of the communication process. Na alam nyo, ang communication, parang napakadali niyan. Kasi everyday, pinapractice natin. Di ba? We are always talking with one another, having casual conversations, meron kang social media. Parang napakadali, parang intuitive na sa atin yan. However, sa extension method, napaka-importante niyan. And because it's very important, kailangan nating alamin yung iba't ibang mga problems or barriers na maaaring makaapekto doon sa effectivity ng communication natin. So ano-ano ba itong mga communication barriers na to? Well, when we talk about barriers, ano ba yan? So ang communication barrier, basically, yan ay parang harang that prevents a message from being correctly transmitted, received, and yung pinaka-importante, understood. Alright? So harang yan na maaaring i-block yung transmission ng message, i-block yung receiving of the message, pero yung pinaka-importante dyan, maaaring ang communication barrier, i-block niya yung intended na meaning ng mensahe and i-confuse niya, no, or mag-cause ng misunderstanding kapag naipadala na yan or kapag na-receive na yan ni receiver. So ano-ano ba yung mga different communication barriers na kino-consider natin when we are communicating with our extension recipients? So number one, we have semantic barrier. So ang semantic barrier, ang keyword dyan is words, right? So the barrier is caused by problems involving words and language and symbols. So for example, kapag gumamit tayo ng unfamiliar na language kay farmer, so nagiging semantic barrier yon. Kapag ikaw ay scientist, pumunta ka sa farm at gumamit ka ng maraming technical terms na ikaw lang ang nakakaintindi, semantic barrier naman yon. Kaya naman, very important na kapag ikaw ay isang extension worker, in as much as you can, marunong ka dapat dun sa local dialect ng lugar. And at the same time, kapag ikaw ay nagdi-discuss ng isang particular technology, gumagamit ka ng layman's term kung saan may intindihan ng mga farmers yon. Next, we have physical barriers. So ang physical barriers naman, yan ay mga environmental or mechanical obstacles that can interfere communication. So ano yung mga environmental or mechanical obstacles na yan? Una, ingay. So may noise. Right? Kunwari, nagmi-meeting kayo sa isang farm. Kasi field day, ano? Tapos merong gumagamit ng traktor na pagkaingay-ingay. So yung ingay ng tractor na yun is a physical barrier. Next would be, kunwari ikaw ay nagle-lecture sa maraming farmers. Tapos naka-mic ka, tapos biglang nawalan ng kuryente. So hindi mo na ngayon magamit yung mic mo. Kailangan mo nang sumigaw. So yung pagkasira ng mic, yung pagkasira ng mic because of power interruption can be a physical barrier to communication. Okay? Next one, we have what we call as psychological barriers. So ang psychological barriers na yan, ingay din yan, pero hindi natin nakikita, hindi natin naririnig kasi yan yung ingay na nasa loob mismo ng ating mga recipients o ng ating mga farmers. So saan nanggagaling yung psychological na barriers? Nanggagaling yan sa emosyon, sa belief, sa kanilang mental conditions. So for example, let's say pumunta ka sa isang farm, tapos nakapusturang-pustura ka, and then nakita ka ng mga farmer, nayabangan sa'yo. Nung ikaw ay nag-lecture, meron na silang preconceived notion na mayabang ka. And yung preconceived na notion nila that you are, my quote-unquote, mayabang, can act as a psychological barrier. Okay? Another example, kunwari si farmer, matanda na siya, ayaw na niyang mag-adapt ng kahit na ano. Kumbaga, fix in his own ways na si farmer. Sasabihin niya sa'yo, matanda na ako, nasubukan ko na lahat-lahat ng mga yan. Fix in his own ways na siya. Psychological barrier din po yan. Next, we have physiological barrier. Ang physiological barrier naman, iba siya sa physical lang kasi ang physical, ang tinitingnan natin dyan is yung environment. Ang physiological, ang tinitingnan naman natin dyan ay yung body nung recipient ng message. Okay? So ano yung barrier that involves the recipient's bodily conditions? Like for example, mahina yung kanyang pandinig. Diba? Kapag matatanda na, medyo humihina na yung pandinig ng mga yan. That could be a physiological barrier. Mahina yung kanyang mata, hindi niya makita yung presentation. So, poor eyesight. Physiological barrier yan. Or let's say siya'y gutom. Gutom yung farmer natin. So, kahit gusto niyang maintindihan ng maayos yung mensahe, kapag siya'y gutom, ay hindi niya maintindihan yan. So, physiological barrier rin po yan. And finally, we have what we call as organizational barriers. So ito namang mga organizational barriers, ang mga kasama dyan are the rules, structures, procedures, or relationship within an organization. Like for example, dito sa Pilipinas, sobrang excessive ng bureaucracy. And because of that excessive bureaucracy, it could now affect negatively yung communication process. Another example, let's say meron kang meron kang isang community of farmers and then gusto mong mag-assign ng isang farmer leader. Pero ang gustong gawin ng mga farmers, dapat dalawa daw yung leader nila. So kapag dalawa yung leader nila, unclear kung sino yung may authority over them. Right? So possible na kapag ikaw ay naghayag ng isang announcement, possible na magkaroon ng poor communication kasi hindi nila alam kung kanino sila makikinig kasi dalawa yung leader nila. So that could be an organizational barrier as well. Alright? So itong mga communication barriers na to, ang goal ng extension is to minimize them. Okay? We need to minimize them nang sa ganon, ma-transmit, ma-receive, at maintindihan yung mensahe as the source intends it to be. Alright? Na meron pala tayong dalawang klase ng communication. Ano kaya yung dalawang klase ng communication na yan? Meron tayong tinatawag na monadic communication and dyadic communication. So, ano pa yung pinagkaiba ng monadic at saka dyadic? So, ang monadic communication, yan ay tinatawag din po nating intrapersonal communication. Intrapersonal communication. Right? Intrapersonal communication. Now, when we say